course, it's like actually starting to rain. So this might be a bit of a short-lived video. And it kind of reminds me of the, whoa, there goes my phone stand. So I'll just hold it up. Anyway, it kind of reminds me of like the Nightingale hail that we've all been experiencing in game and the rainstorms. And now it's hailing. Of course it's hailing. So I'm gonna sit here and weather the storm as I talk about some of this stuff. And before I do get into my review after about 25 hours of time in Nightingale's early game, I did want to mention that Nightingale is an early access title and the developers are taking feedback from us. I've seen tons of great feedback on Reddit, YouTube, and Discord. The thing is, they have a specific app that they use in order to sort through all of our feedback efficiently. So while all of the feedback everyone's been giving has been great that I've seen on Reddit, YouTube, and Discord, I do think that the developers are going to be particularly wanting to see all of that on this app. So what I'm going to do is put a link to that in the description box so that you will be able to go and give your feedback on Nightingale. I know that all of the feedback I am writing down and talking about in my videos will be written up and put on that app as well. Alright, so now let's get into the rest of my quick talk about my first 25 hours in Nightingale's early access. So anyway, I think some interesting things happened with Nightingale when it launched. It got somewhat review bombed because of the difficulty to actually get in and play on the servers. But the developers have updated us that they will be working on an offline mode, so that's pretty cool. I think what happened there is that Enshrouded and Palworld brought so many mainstream gamers into our little survival genre, and oh my gosh, I wasn't kidding when I said it was raining. They brought so many gamers into the survival genre that people kind of expected one thing and got another, I think, when they bought into Nightingale because it was so hyped. Everyone was like, oh, it's going to be the next big survival game and all that stuff. I am one of those people who is super against hype. But anyway, I think that's kind of what happened with Nightingale. And I think that the people who have been around in early access survival world for a while are actually enjoying what they've found now that they've gotten into it. That's what happened with me. I started out really skeptical because the combat wasn't what I was expecting and it felt really grindy, but then I unlocked a new tier of realm that just looked completely different. The Provisioner's Realm, I have a video up on it called New Realm, New Fables to Hunt or something like that, if you want to check that out. And it completely changed the way I play the game because you're introduced to new mechanics that weren't in the game to begin with, like magic and the augmentation benches and all that stuff. To begin with, I found combat to be really repetitive in that hordes of enemies swarm you, and you have your hotbar worth of weapons to choose from in order to take that horde down. So dodge is tied to specific weapons, so the daggers, sickle, and at this point that I know of, the pistol allow you to dodge backwards or forwards with right click, whereas your two-handed pickaxe and things like your axe for chopping wood, you can right click with to block. So this took a little bit of getting used to because I'm used to being able to dodge no matter what weapon I have on in a game. So to me it was a little bit clunky of an experience to have to keep switching through all of my weapons. You are given the option to craft a sling bow at the beginning of the game, which I found useful for taking on some of the flying enemies. I've only seen one type of flying enemy so far, and that's the one I just had there in the shot. And then the last thing I'll mention about my early experience with combat is that you can stagger enemies by bopping them, and then they'll kind of fall over and stagger, so it gives you a moment to recover or just keep hitting them and clearing the horde. So that was really my first chunk of combat in the game, and it started to feel very repetitive. But then I did hit those new realms and I unlocked magic and the ability to craft a pistol, which helped to put some depth into the combat. Even though the AI isn't great, at least I had other ways to go about getting these points of interests done. So I'm excited to see what more we get as we progress through the mid and end game of Nightingale. The only two pieces of magic I have unlocked right now are the ability to create a light source, which I haven't found much use for yet, and then also the ability to heal myself. The way this works is you imbue a spell onto your weapon. I chose my pickaxe, and then as I am in battle, I can hit the skill button, which is R, and then I have to click again to activate it. So again, it's a little bit clunky, but I do find the ability to heal myself without having to use a potion pretty useful. Saves on resources, and it also does quite a pretty good amount of healing at its base level. And just as the weather in the realms of Nightingale change at the flip of a dime, so does the weather in my real life realm. And so I present to you a much sunnier day, Whispabird, to continue my discussion. The way the game plays changed completely for me, and I was really grateful for that because, as I said, I was worried that my whole Nightingale experience was going to be doing the same POIs, the same monsters, the same bosses on repeat. And so I'm really, really happy that I did push through that final automaton boss before the Provisional Realm and make my way there. I'm going to show gameplay examples of this because I think it's important to talk about because it is something that is so noticeable as you make your way through Nightingale. I was seeing the same 3 music puzzles, the same Fey Tower mazes, the same defense missions, but then when I hit the Provisioner's Realm, I came across this new experience where I was with a group of NPCs that needed to defend a big, like, laser type Frankenstein looking machine. And what kept happening is that the monsters, the bound enemies, would swarm into the room, attack the machine, but then as we're trying to defend the machine, the NPCs are bopping the monsters, but also hitting the machine. So they were killing the machine that we're trying to actually defend. So the game gave me this janky but still fun ability to go and build around the structure in order to block off the entrances that the enemies could come into so that I could streamline where I wanted them to be so I could better defend that piece of machinery. It was an experience I had so much fun with, which is kind of funny. It's such a small little thing, but I think I had more fun doing this defense mission and customizing it in a way that made it work for me over some of the boss fights that I had seen. Speaking of repetitive, those are almost the same 3 automaton bosses I've fought now, and so I'm hoping that as the game moves through early access, it will keep diversifying the type of challenges that are in the game, because once you've seen one of something, it seems like you've seen them all within that same subject matter. Honestly, my one huge piece of feedback for Nightingale that would, for me, fix the early game is if combat were a little bit more engaging and a little bit more fun, because then it wouldn't be so bad to grind the various viewpoints if I enjoyed combat a little bit more. And I did find that when I unlocked new ways to interact with the combat, so like the pistol and magic, that my experience with it was improved quite a bit. But I do think there's a lot of improvement that can go on there. And of course, there's tons of improvement that can go on in other aspects of the game, like inventory management and resource management. I actually really like that part of survival games, so I'm not too picky about that. But just to streamline it a little bit more to make things less daunting for people to get into the crafting system and into the augmentation system, I think that that would be really helpful. Now, the developers have said that they are going to look into adding a craft from storage option, so like a hot craft option like we're used to seeing in Grounded, and that one mod in Valheim. Honestly, this isn't a huge deal for me because I am used to having to manage my inventory through games like Conan, Atlas, and Ark. In those games, you have different boxes for different materials or different groups of materials. The one thing I will say is that Nightingale has way too many tiers of items that don't stack. So instead of just having one box for each type of material, you have to have like multiple boxes in order to hold all of the different tiers of things near whatever crafting bench it is that you're wanting to craft by. So it does get pretty micromanagey, even for someone like me who is used to playing these types of survival games. I do like the complexity of being able to craft with all of these different types of materials in a way that completely changes the type of gear that you're wearing. It's very customizable, and I love that part of it, but I think For people who aren't used to these types of games, it might be a little challenging to get into and probably monotonous and tedious for some, but I can't speak for other people. I can only speak for myself, and at this point, the crafting and storage isn't that big of a deal to me. I would rather have more to explore out in the world and not worry about having to run across the same POIs and viewpoints and all that stuff. As far as augmentations go, they are pieces of decoration that also alter the types of equipment you can make when you place them by a specific type of crafting station. So I wanted to make a pistol. I have the correct workbench to make the pistol, but in order to have that recipe show up in that workbench, I need to place a saddle rack, for whatever reason, by that workbench. So I like that this is a unique thing, but my problem with it is that things get cluttered very quickly, and with the current building limits and the kind of clunky way decoration and placing objects is in the game right now, it's not super fun. It's more of like a task or a chore to unlock these different recipes that you need. So I'm not exactly sure what I would do to fix this beyond removing the limit on augmentations per workbench so that we as players can like set things up exactly how we want them without having to worry about limits. So I'm curious to see how that whole system is going to develop going forward. I don't really have any other games to compare it to because it's a completely new thing. So yeah, definitely keeping my eye on that. For people like me, I think Nightingale is going to be a solid contender for a game to spend quite a bit of time in because of its level of complexity. For people who are looking for like a shallow, just run it through experience, you technically could play Nightingale like that and just throw on whatever gear using whatever armor and just bash your way through everything. And I think that's what a lot of people have done. And so maybe they haven't enjoyed the depth that the game does have to offer because of that. And then to speak a little more on that, I'm really happy that I'm taking my sweet ass time with this game because, whoopsie doodles, there goes my phone, okay. I'm really happy that I am taking my time with Nightingale because I don't think I would have had the same experience if I just rushed my way through it and brute forced through all the bosses and vaults and then to the watch. So yeah, this has been, I think, I'm up to like 25 hours of playtime now, and I've just unlocked the herbarium. So I really am not as far as others that I've seen playing the game. And I'm going to keep taking it slow. And in the vein of taking it slow, I'm going to be doing a ton more of building in Nightingale. I already took a look at the crude building pieces. I did a video of building a bridge if you want to check that out. It's a little more in depth than what I'll say here, but basically Nightingale's building system is based on a square foundation. So if you can put it on a square foundation, you can build off of it. But it doesn't give you the range of creativity I found that other survival games do. So I'm hoping that this building system will be expanded upon a little bit more as Nightingale goes through its early access, and that the build limits are relaxed a little bit because as it stands right now, you have such a beautiful world to build in and beautiful building tiles, but maybe not necessarily the capability of building a huge blown out base as builders like me are used to doing in survival games. So I'm crossing my fingers that we will get those limits removed or improved as time goes on. So anyway, that was just my quick little rant about how I think Nightingale's launch went, and I'm gonna try and keep you guys all updated as much as I can with some news. I really had to come outside and touch grass because I've been spending so much time recording and playing in my office. But anyway, I hear the neighbors kind of working on their fence a little bit, so I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. I am a Whispabird. That is it for me today, guys. I hope you all are enjoying your games, and I hope you enjoyed this candid little talk. So enjoy Nightingale if you are in there. I'm curious to hear your thoughts about how the game is in the comments down below, and I will see you all in the next video.